The grand hall fell silent, save for the rustle of expensive fabrics and nervous murmurs. My wedding. As Julian He and I were exchanging rings, the large double doors at the back of the hall burst open. "Daddy!" Julian froze, the platinum band catching on his knuckle stuck halfway. The moment stretched, exquisitely awkward. A strikingly beautiful woman, holding the hand of a child perhaps 4 or 5 years old, stood framed in the doorway. Her eyes instantly welled up as she took in the scene, the aisle, the flowers, us. She looked utterly fragile, heartbroken. That single tear seemed to erase everything else for Julian. He completely forgot this was our wedding. Clutching the child, the woman spun around and fled. "Serafina!" He was gone in a flash, abandoning me right there at the altar, chasing after the woman and child. The wedding ring he tried to put on my finger clattered to the floor, spinning for a moment before settling by the MC's polished shoes. Even the normally smooth-talking MC was speechless. A wave of whispers rippled through the guests. Countless eyes, some pitying, some openly mocking, landed on me. I was a spectacle, a complete and utter joke. My first wedding ended before it truly began. Mr. Arthur He, Julian's father, his face like thunder, ordered his bodyguards to bring Julian back. Mrs. Eleanor He, Julian's mother, usually so kind and gentle, promised me an explanation, though her expression was far from pleasant at that moment. From one of Julian's closest friends, I managed to piece together the gist of the situation. Serafina Zhang was one of Julian's many former girlfriends, known for her striking looks. They had a tumultuous on-again off-again history, but things supposedly ended definitively 6 years ago. No one, it seemed, had expected she'd turn up with his child. "Ilara," the friend said, trying awkwardly to console me. "Julian and Serafina were just casual. She's nothing compared to you." His voice trailed off. Even he probably didn't believe that lie. "I need to use the restroom," I stated calmly. Mrs. He, concerned I might do something rash, offered to accompany me. "No need, mother," I replied, my voice level. "I'll wait for Julian to return." I changed out of the wedding dress, the heavy silk a stark contrast to my inner lightness, and headed towards the restrooms. I was waylaid mid-corridor by Liu Ding. He grabbed my arm, pulling me into an empty private dining room. I struggled, but his grip on my waist was firm. His voice was laced with undeniable schadenfreude. "I took a video. Want to see?" He was here to gloat. How could he not be happy seeing the woman he clearly viewed as shallow and materialistic brought so low? I kicked his shin, my voice cold. "Stay away from me." He ignored me, pulling out his phone. The screen displayed a video of the man who should have been toasting guests with me, now holding a child. In one arm, the woman's hand in the other, strolling casually through the city's most exclusive mall. What a picture of a sweet, happy family. Leo looked at me, confident of his victory. "Lyra," he said, using the name I'd gone by for years now, "do you regret it?" He'd been relentless in his efforts to make my life difficult since we'd reconnected. "No," I replied truthfully. He clearly thought I was being stubborn. He sneered. "Want to consider me? I won't marry you, but at least I won't put you through this kind of humiliation." Standing on that stage, being the object of stares and whispers, hadn't truly mortified me. But his words were a precise, sharp knife, twisting in a wound he didn't even know existed. "Leo," I said, pulling free from him, my voice hardening, "I have no interest in playing out some old flames reunite fantasy with you." He played with a strand of my hair, his handsome face twisting into a smirk. "Shall I tell him about our relationship?" I laughed, a cold, brittle sound. "What relationship? A college romance? That was just kids playing house." The irony was Leo was my ex-boyfriend and I'd only found out after Julian and I got engaged that he was one of Julian's closest friends. "Besides," I continued, my voice dropping, "do you really think he'd care? Julian didn't truly love me. He'd only proposed because his parents deemed me suitable." I pulled away from Leo and turned to leave. "What if I told him?" Leo's voice stopped me dead, his eyes cold and dark in the phone's glow. "That his wife's in-laws aren't real?" My steps faltered. I turned back to him, the light from the phone illuminating his face, cold, assessing. I was stung by the blatant disgust and mockery. In his eyes, he didn't know anything. He didn't know the real reason I was marrying Julian. I was doing it in my own way to get justice for my father. My father found me near a garbage collection point. He was a sanitation worker. He'd injured his leg working construction years ago and walked with a limp, making him unemployable by foremen. He drifted through the city alone until he found me, a fragile infant, barely clinging to life beside a dumpster. He learned to be a father. In a world of debris, he built me a home. He carried me on his back as he swept the streets. Without money for formula, he'd boil rice gruel for me. He always said I was a gift from the heavens. Finally, like all children, I grew. The night before I started primary school, he took me to a department store. He bought me a new dress, a school bag, stationery. His dark, weathered face beamed as he carefully counted out the worn banknotes. He said I should have everything other children had. You have to look nice and pretty, he told me, so no one will look down on you. I didn't understand his words then, but I learned quickly. On Teacher's Day, I was the only one who didn't bring a gift. I just picked a few pretty wildflowers from the roadside. But before I could give them to the teacher, Fatty, a classmate, snatched them, sniffed them, then threw them on the ground and stomped on them. How can you be so pathetic? He sneered. Your family is so poor. You should just beg on the streets. How could he say that? He was spitting on my father's hard work, his dignity. Shut up, I yelled. He ignored me, smug. You and your trash collector father belong in the gutter. I covered his mouth with my hand, begging him to stop, but he kicked me hard in the stomach. That was the first time I was hit. It hurt so much tears streamed down my face. Teacher Wu, Lyra's hitting me. I wanted to say it wasn't true that he hit me first, but Fatty didn't give me a chance. He tackled me to the ground, sat on me and started punching me. The teacher arrived late, separated us and called our parents. My father, my gentle limping father, stood there being yelled at, called a trash collector. He didn't argue. He just bowed his head, nodding, forcing a placating smile for Fatty's father. In that moment I understood the harsh truth. People were not equal. To them, poverty was a crime. The teacher told us to shake hands and make up. I didn't want to see my father smile like that. It looked so painful. So I reached out, my hand to Fatty first. But his father scoffed. Shake hands? She's covered in germs just like this trash collector. Disgusting. My father suddenly exploded, grabbing the man's arm, demanding an apology for me. Fatty's father shoved him away, his face contorted with contempt. Apologize? People like you are the dregs of society. Parasites. I pay thousands in taxes every month, and it goes to supporting you. You're alive because of me. And you want me to apologize? Spit flew in my face. My father was panting, trembling with rage. I took his tightly clenched fist in my hand. Daddy, I'm hungry. Can we go home? He froze, looking down at me. I forced a smile. His fist relaxed, his eyes instantly filling with tears. Okay, he choked out. On the way home, he didn't scold me. He just said, Sonny, you have to study hard. That's how you become someone people respect. I wanted him to be respected too. I wanted him to stand tall, to sit in clean restaurants, not just on the curb outside. I wanted him healthy, to live a long life. None of it happened. He died. I was in 4th grade, first in my class. What do you want as a reward? My father asked. Looking up at him, I said, Coke chicken wings. He stroked my head, smiling, and said okay. Then a cry for help, sudden and urgent. Help! Help! Someone save me! Sonny, wait here. Don't wander off. Daddy will be right back. He hobbled, limped towards the riverbank, then jumped in without hesitation. His hands thrashed wildly in the dark water for a few seconds, then went still. The cries for help turned into laughter. The child's head broke the surface. My father was gone. I'd almost forgotten. My father, the man who seemed invincible to me, couldn't swim. I ran to the riverbank, screaming, Daddy, get out. No one fell in. He was lying. No one answered. Only the river flowed on. I finally found someone to help. The culprit was standing calmly on the bank, gathering his things. I lunged at him, frantic. You can't leave. Why did you do that? What did he say? He said, I was just playing. I didn't ask him to save me. But it was him who cried for help, calling for my father. He kicked me away. He was bigger, older. I couldn't fight him. He looked down at me, his eyes filled with undisguised malice and disdain. A dead cripple trying to play hero. Daddy, do you see? Is this the kind of person you tried to save? Give me back my father. Seeing him about to leave, I bit down hard on his leg. He cried out in pain, then kicked my head repeatedly with his other foot. It hurt so much, but I couldn't let him go. He had killed my father. Soon 2 sets of headlights cut through the darkness. I screamed for help, hoping they would save me. I felt like I couldn't hold on much longer. But I was wrong. They pulled me off him, tossing me aside like garbage near the riverbank. "Young master, you should go home first. We'll handle the rest." That child looked at me with cold eyes, only spitting out, "Insignificant bug." He went home. But me? My home? The men who had pulled me off him came ashore, their faces grim. One shook his head, looking at me with pity. Couldn't find anyone. The police finally arrived. They pulled my father's body from the river. I told him to get up, said I was hungry, wanted Coke chicken wings. He didn't answer. In that moment my world collapsed. I told everyone my father hadn't jumped on his own, that someone had played a cruel trick, that someone had lied to him. It wasn't suicide. It wasn't an accident. But no one believed me. And no one, not a single person, sought justice for him. My father, my wonderful father, was quickly forgotten. After my father died, I was sent to an orphanage. Every night my dreams were haunted by his lifeless face and that child's laughter. There was no one with rough, loving hands to stroke my back, no gentle voice to sing me to sleep, no one to pull a small toy from their pocket like a treasure, to stroke my hair and say, "My sonny, you work so hard." No one with a bent back to hold up my world. I'd wake up crying only to cry myself back to sleep. I desperately wanted that person to suffer, to feel even a fraction of my pain. I spent every day plotting how to do it. He was clearly from a rich, powerful family. So I staked out every elite school in Sea City. Finally, I found him. I learned he was Julian He. His father ran a successful pharmaceutical company. They were wealthy. He was still prone to cruelty, cornering people in alleys, using his fists to settle things. Later, after injuring another boy badly, he was sent abroad. He vanished from my sight temporarily. I never forgot my father's words. I studied relentlessly day and night. I also closely followed the He family's activities. In my high school years, their company's drugs caused patient deaths, over 30 victims. It was a huge scandal, but they faced no consequences. In court, expert testimony claimed the drug contained no components that could cause death. I knew it wasn't that simple. Julian and his father were 2 peas in a pod, disregarding human life, utterly ruthless. But I was just a student. I could do nothing then. I could only study, push myself non-stop. Finally, I got into a university, one of the top universities in the country, choosing pharmaceutics. My whole life was a gamble, infiltrating the enemy's territory, all to make them pay. At a university, I met Liu Ding. He was a faint light in my darkness. After his persistent pursuit, we started dating. But the gap between us was too wide. My life carried too many burdens, and he wasn't part of them. During college, I understood more. The He family's pharmaceutical company was successful. To become a core researcher, I'd need at least 10 years, maybe 20-30. I couldn't wait that long. I needed a new strategy. Even ruthless Arthur he had once loved deeply. He and his first love, Madame Serafina, had a passionate, all-consuming romance. But Arthur chose a business marriage for profit. Heartbroken and disillusioned, Madame Serafina left China, settling in Australia. She was his white moonlight, the one who got away. After living a seemingly privileged life, her daughter and husband passed away. Now she was alone, often in the hospital, desperately needing companionship. I broke up with Leo and went to Australia without hesitation. I approached Madame Serafina, attending to her needs meticulously. I deliberately omitted my father's existence, portraying myself as a pitiable orphan. I grew up on charity. I have no memory of my parents, I'd tell her, adding carefully, but I remember my mother's embrace. "You smell like my mother." I would lean into her, tears falling at the right moment. She would cry with me. I spent 2 years orchestrating events, until she willingly announced to the outside world that I was her long-lost daughter. This gave me the perfect identity to approach Julian He. Julian, having finished his studies abroad, was back to take over the family business. I applied and became his secretary. The scrawny, tearful child he'd kicked by the river? He wouldn't recognize her in the poised, attractive woman before him, the insignificant bug he'd sneered at. At the company's annual gala, Wearing a necklace Madame Serafina had given me, I orchestrated a slight collision with Arthur He. I feigned panic. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Chairman I." He steadied me gracefully. His hand paused as his eyes fell on my necklace. His voice trembled slightly. "This necklace? Ah, it was a gift from my mother." I smiled brightly. Mother said it was a gift from the person she loved most. She hoped it would bring me luck and help me find true love. The necklace was a gift from Arthur to Madame Serafina. He was silent, hearing my words. It might sound a bit silly, but my mother was very romantic, always holding on to strange hopes. But I truly have met someone I like very much. I gazed subtly at Julian across the room. He studied my face closely, searching, no doubt, for a resemblance to Madame Serafina. "Your mother? Was she Serafina Chi?" I feigned surprise. "Oh, Chairman, you knew her?" Arthur didn't explicitly say they were past lovers, only that they were high school and college classmates. "Your mother? Was she well?" My face clouded with manufactured sadness. "She passed away." He looked stunned, his lips slightly parted. Then his eyes slowly grew red. After the gala, Arthur He took a special interest in me. One day he asked, "Why did you choose to work here?" Madame Serafina had married well. Her life was comfortable. Her daughter wouldn't need to be a mere secretary. My face instantly flushed, just as I'd practiced. Arthur understood. From the hints I'd carefully placed, he concluded I was interested in his son. Yes, this was my strategy. Julian was a womanizer, surrounded by women. I wasn't confident I could control him. Better to start with Arthur. He projected his guilt towards Serafina onto me. With his support, I quickly rose through the company ranks, and my marriage to Julian became a natural, inevitable progression. "Leo, don't say foolish things," I told him in that private room. Madame Serafina and her husband were both gone. No one could verify my identity. Besides, the title of daughter was something Madame Serafina had given me herself. "I have a friend who happened to be Madame Serafina's doctor," Leo pressed, his voice low. "I heard something very interesting from him." A friend? The Ding family owned a large hospital and had extensive connections, but I doubted his friend just happened to be her doctor. Leo had investigated me. But what could a doctor know? The He family couldn't even be bothered to check. "Why are you wasting your time?" I curved my lips into a mocking smile. "Leo, you aren't still hung up on me, are you?" What a lovesick fool. He wasn't. 6 years ago, I'd suddenly broken up with him and vanished. That had hurt his pride. He was used to getting whatever he wanted. No one had treated him as I had. Leo's jaw tightened. I expected him to deny it outright, but his reaction was different. I pursed my lips, my voice cold. "My business with the He family is not yours to meddle in. Julian and I won't be divorcing easily. Type AB blood and type O blood cannot produce a type O child," he stated calmly. He was so meticulous. He didn't believe I was Madame Serafina's daughter. Since her and her husband's deaths made DNA testing impossible, he'd investigated our blood types. He backed me against the wall, his voice tight with suppressed rage. "Lyra, do you want to marry him that badly? Willing to invent a whole new identity?" I wasn't ready to tell him the truth. After all, I was targeting his friend, his business partner. He might not help me. I couldn't risk it. I shrugged, feigning nonchalance. Of course. Who wouldn't want to marry into wealth? He looked like he wanted to say more. "It's a shame," I continued, deliberately leaning in and placing a hand on his shoulder. "When we were dating, you insisted on playing the poor student. Otherwise, maybe I'd be marrying you right now." He turned his face away. "Don't say things like that to disgust me." I laughed, releasing him. "Leo, don't do anything foolish. Julian won't get off lightly if he divorces me. Even if my identity as daughter was questioned, I'd still be her adopted daughter." The worst-case scenario was Arthur feeling some resentment, but I had time to win him over again. "Don't let pride make him push you away. And don't make me hate you." My tone dropped. "Don't call me Lyra. Lyra is gone. I had 3 names. My father named me Sonny, his little son. After his death, fearing the He's would pursue me, I changed it to Lyra. After connecting with Madame Serafina, I took her husband's surname, becoming Ivy Wu. The next time you see me," I said, my voice cold and final, "call me sister-in-law, like everyone else." Julian returned late that night. Arthur, he, still furious, rose abruptly and slapped him. Look at what you've done. The incident at the wedding had gone viral online. Someone had filmed it, and the scandal of the wealthy family was a feast for netizens. Father! I cried out, rushing to Julian's side. Julian, are you okay? Does it hurt? He frowned, not looking at me, addressing Arthur. I'll handle my own affairs. Your own affairs? What about Alara? What do you think of her? Do you know what terrible things people are saying online? I stepped in, defending him. Father, Julian didn't want this to happen. No one knew a child would suddenly appear. I turned to Arthur, playing the part. Alara is a proper lady. She came all the way from Australia for you, working as your secretary, fetching you tea. And this is what you do. I cut Arthur off. Father, didn't we agree not to mention that? To prevent Julian from feeling obligated, I'd made a deal with Arthur never to reveal that my return was because of him. I'd only told Julian I was the daughter of Arthur's old friend, here to gain experience. This image of a deeply devoted woman, willing to cross oceans for love, endeared me even more to Arthur. Arthur looked at me with frustration. You silly child, you should talk about what you've done. I lowered my gaze, letting tears trace my cheeks. Father, Julian and I will figure this out. It's late. You and Mother should rest. My grandson can only be born to Alara, Arthur declared, his voice firm. You figure it out yourself. With that, he stormed off upstairs. Julian and I went to our room. As soon as the door closed, he yanked at his collar, looking agitated. What did Father mean by that? My carefully constructed story was finally ready. I told him I'd grown up alone, studying hard to get into a university. At the school's centennial celebration, he had appeared, handsome in a black suit, and donated a building, sponsoring countless needy students. The hardships of my life had given me perspective beyond my years. I'd fallen in love with his mature confidence, his apparent generosity. I worked so hard hoping to catch up to you, hoping one day I could stand by your side. I paused, letting the sadness tinge my voice. Then Mother found me, and I learned I wasn't an orphan after all. She wanted me to settle in Australia. I agreed. My voice softened, becoming vulnerable. But I never forgot you. Mother saw how I felt, and before she passed, she encouraged me to bravely pursue my love. He didn't know that my gaze towards him was never admiration, but calculation. He also didn't know that Madame Serafina's words weren't about pursuing love, but about letting go of hatred and living well. She had seen the burden behind my smiles. I had said I was sorry. From the day my father died, my greatest obsession was getting justice for him, so I couldn't promise her that. She didn't insist, just smiled gently. She said she'd be watching over me, hoping for my happiness. Then she slept forever. After handling things in Australia, I came back to China. Being your secretary was just my way of being close to you. Julian didn't love me deeply, but I was an attractive woman. Hearing this beautiful woman confess her love so openly flattered his ego immensely. He looked genuinely moved. I had no idea about any of this. I smiled faintly. You don't need to know the details. You just need to know I love you. This feigned devotion was nauseating. But I was acting, and it was necessary. He was silent for a long time before saying, I'm sorry. I didn't expect today to happen. Julian, you should be sorry, but not for the wedding interruption. You should be sorry for abandoning me in front of everyone, for making me a laughingstock. But it doesn't matter. I will return every slight. His attitude had softened. I pressed my advantage. What do you plan to do about the child? I asked, sounding concerned. If you're worried about him, you could bring him home. He is your child, he family blood. I lowered my voice, making a sacrifice. If you trust me, I can raise him. If not, Mother can. This sounded generous. Mother has always wanted a grandchild, she'd never mistreat him. As for Father, he only said those things because he was angry. I'll find a way to persuade him to accept the child. This display of understanding and generosity pleased Julian greatly. He truly believed I was madly in love with him, willing to endure humiliation and embrace his child out of devotion. I'll bring the child over in a few days to meet my parents. My expression dimmed subtly. He noticed instantly. As for Serafina, he said, his voice hardening, I'll handle her. You are Mrs. He. No one can threaten your position. You must love her very much. I said, almost a question. Julian's brow furrowed tightly. That's not true. He used needing a shower as an excuse and disappeared into the bathroom. Did he really not love her? Then, why the panic at the wedding? Why chase after her so desperately? He was still lying to himself. Even a cruel person like Julian could fall into love's trap. The sound of the shower filled the room. I poured a glass of red wine and stood by the window, looking down at the city lights. My phone rang. An unknown number. It wasn't me. It was Leo. I paused, then understood what he meant. The video. Okay. Anything else? If not, I'll hang up. I knew it wasn't him. I had hired someone to film the wedding interruption and leak the video online. The line went dead. He had hung up first. Julian acted quickly. Within days, he brought the child, Jasper, to the He house. Serafina had named him Jasper. She had raised him. Well, his face was round and sweet, very likable. At the dinner table, Arthur He's expression was stern. Are you sure he's your child? We did a paternity test, Julian confirmed. He is. So what are you going to do? Bring him into the He family for us to raise. Serafina disagrees. The experts also say it's better for the child's growth to stay with his mother, Julian replied, rubbing his temples. Arthur snorted. I think that woman is just using the child as an excuse to get you running to her. Eleanor, he interrupted him. The child is here. Don't say such things. I placed some deboned fish onto Jasper's plate. Father, mother, if Serafina doesn't agree, then let it go. Besides, Jasper is still young and grew up with his mother. Suddenly moving him here might traumatize him. Why not wait until he's a bit older, let Julian and him spend more time together to build their bond, and then bring him back? That makes sense, Arthur conceded. Julian started visiting Serafina more often. They were often seen as a family of three at the kindergarten, playgrounds, and restaurants. I pretended not to notice, secretly pleased. I should have thanked Serafina. Her presence meant I didn't have to deal with Julian, and could focus more energy on my plan. Soon enough, Arthur and Julian He were taken away by tax investigators. The anonymous report? I had been gathering evidence for years. Becoming Mrs. He gave me greater access and made my work much easier. This was just the first round. The real show was just beginning. Damaging news about the He Corporation leaked. The He's were masters of bluff, but to maintain the illusion that everything was fine, Eleanor He insisted I accompany her to a charity gala. That evening I brought Jasper. Elara, why did you bring him? Eleanor He looked displeased. While she doted on the idea of grandchildren, bringing an illegitimate child to such a formal event was inappropriate. I smiled sadly. Mother, Julian instructed me to. He really wants to introduce Jasper to everyone. Serafina's influence on Julian was indeed significant. In just a few months he was wrapped around her finger. Eleanor sighed. Elara, you need to work harder, she urged, referring to producing an heir. For days she'd been pushing tonics and remedies for fertility on me. My womb, of course, remained stubbornly empty. I would never have Julian's child. The thought repulsed me. I looked down at Jasper, stroking his cheek. Jasper, be a good boy. Auntie will introduce you to people. Though reluctant, Eleanor had no choice but to play the part of doting grandmother, presenting Jasper to her business contacts. Unkind, assessing eyes landed on me, but the words were all flattery directed at Eleanor. Mrs. He, you are truly blessed. I maintained a serene, dignified smile. Furthermore, at my suggestion, Eleanor He made a significant donation in Jasper's name. This cemented the fact that Jasper was recognized as He family blood to everyone present. While taking Jasper to the restroom, I ran into Leo again. I'd felt his gaze on me subtly throughout the evening. This time he was bolder, cornering me at the end of a secluded corridor. Thick curtains draped nearby, enclosing us. Certainly didn't look like an innocent encounter. I wore a backless gown, and the sudden contact with the cold glass chilled me. Leo placed his arm between my back, and the glass inches away. Our breaths mingled in the confined space. He looked down at me, his eyes reflecting fragmented starlight. He was silent. His strange demeanor confused me. What do you want? I asked, my voice sharp. How long are you going to keep lying to me? I searched my mind, wondering where I'd slipped up. I'm not lying to you. He leaned close, whispering into my ear. You reported them. How did he know? Had he been watching me all along? I prided myself on being careful. I wouldn't have spent 4 years gathering evidence of the He family's tax evasion if I wasn't. He continued, his voice low. What exactly are you planning to do? He paused. Tell me, Lyra. His expression was unexpectedly calm, but his left hand, gripping my wrist, trembled. Leo, don't you have anything better to do than watch me? No, he admitted, his tone flat, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. A sudden surge of anger filled my chest. He had been a university's brightest medical student, praised by professors. He was destined to be a top expert just like his father. That was his dream. He should be pursuing that. Instead, he wanted to pry into my plans, insert himself into my life. What happened? I asked, though my heart felt heavy. This was happening too soon before I was ready to tell him. Julian had been arrested, but the He's weren't completely ruined yet. The Ding family's position wouldn't change. I wasn't sure what Leo would do. But if he was so certain I was targeting the He's yet hadn't warned them, then perhaps for now he was staying neutral. Aren't you good at investigating? Go find out for yourself, Leo. Even if he told the He's, it wouldn't stop the inevitable chain reaction. Jasper's calling me. Please excuse me. The evidence I provided was overwhelming. Their tax evasion was undeniable. With fines and back taxes, the He's owed hundreds of millions. The media coverage was relentless. The stock price plummeted. Arthur and Julian looked significantly older, more gaunt after this ordeal. Father, have you found out who did this? Julian asked, running a hand through his hair. Arthur raged. Everyone in the company is clean. Did someone see the accounts when you were out philandering? I suspect Serafina Zhang. Julian rubbed his temples. It couldn't be her. You're completely smitten with her. You run straight to her as soon as you're free. What useful thing can you accomplish? Arthur raised his hand to slap him again. Seizing the opportunity, I stepped in front of Julian. Father, what's done is done. Punishing Julian won't change anything. Arthur looked at me, his arm finally lowering. I had lost a lot of weight recently from worrying about them and taking on most of their work. After Arthur left, I reminded Julian, we're still short 30 million. If we can't pay, you'll go to jail. I didn't finish the sentence, but Julian understood the consequences perfectly. He was ambitious, unwilling to just manage the family business. He had invested heavily elsewhere, leaving him with little liquid cash. Now, between the fines and draining their accounts, they were still 30 million short. What could the proud Mr. He do? He had to beg for money. Arthur was furious, but had to clean up his son's mess, lowering himself to ask for help despite his age. But the He family's situation looked grim. People in the financial world were shrewd. No one offered a firm commitment, all waiting to see if the He's could stage a comeback. While they were panicking, I approached Leo's older brother, Ethan Ding. Leo was brilliant in medicine, destined to follow his father into hospital administration, becoming director. Ethan was different, a success in the financial world. He didn't seem surprised to see me. He had his secretary pour me coffee, his smile polite, nothing outwardly amiss. But his next words were effectively a dismissal. Julian has already been here. This man was a wolf in sheep's clothing, always driven by profit. I sipped my coffee slowly. Our objectives are different. He's here to borrow money. I'm here to offer you a proposition. His eyebrow lifted, feigning interest. But his relaxed posture indicated he wasn't taking me seriously. He likely thought I was audacious. I believe the Ding family hospital has shares held by the He's, I said casually. Their families were close, so they held shares in each other's major businesses. The He's held shares in the hospital, and the Dings held shares in the pharmaceutical company. The He family is short on cash right now. It's the perfect opportunity for them to sell their hospital shares at a low price. I leaned forward slightly. This way, you can completely remove the He family from the Ding family hospital. I believe you can make that happen. Ethan Ding just smiled. I needed to raise the stakes. You don't need to worry about their relationship. After all, goodwill doesn't pay the bills. I pulled out the share transfer agreement I had prepared. There were 2 reasons I had to marry Julian. First, becoming family gave me greater access. Second, Arthur he had given me shares in the pharmaceutical company as part of the dowry. My own dowry wasn't small either. Most of what Madame Serafina left me had ended up in the He family's pockets. I'm sure you can persuade the other shareholders to support you. With my portion added, the He family's pharmaceutical company can change hands. I wasn't worried. He would refuse. Years ago, when the He family's drugs caused deaths, they'd used any means necessary to shift blame to the doctors. Many of those doctors were from the Ding family hospital. While the financial compensation wasn't huge, and the He's had made some payments to the Dings later, some things couldn't be fixed with money. Reputation, for example. The Ding hospital's reputation had never fully recovered. Their relationship with the He's had naturally cooled. Ethan's smile became genuine. He liked my proposal to remove the He family from his hospital with little effort and acquire their pharmaceutical company. A shrewd deal. Leo was right, he said, his voice tinged with curiosity. You really do have a score to settle with the He's. My brow furrowed slightly. Your presentation was compelling, but what happens next depends on Leo. Before I could react, a crack appeared in the wall beside us. Behind it was a restroom. Leo stood there silently watching me. He had heard our entire conversation. Ethan Ding shrugged. Father gave him a portion of the shares. If Leo doesn't agree, your plan isn't viable. Persuading Leo was supposed to be his job, but now it fell to me. Ethan Ding was truly adept at dodging responsibility. We were alone in the office. I slowly sipped my coffee, walking towards him. Find out anything interesting? I asked, my tone light, contrasting with his stillness. He stood like a heavy statue, his eyes downcast, his jaw tight. His throat bobbed as he swallowed, his voice deep and hoarse. Why didn't you tell me? I would have helped you. He must have figured some things out. Leo, I don't trust anyone. I met his gaze, my voice steady. When faced with absolute self-interest, everyone chooses self-interest. When I first broke up with him, I didn't want to drag him into my revenge. When we met again, I had even less reason to ask for his help. I never believed he would risk his family's good relationship with the He's for some vague idea of love. He seemed stung by the coldness in my eyes. He suddenly grabbed my hand, trying to pull me into his embrace. I dodged, stumbling, bumping him, and we both fell backward onto the couch. He had done it deliberately, I knew, but I didn't call him out. The familiar scent of disinfectant filled my nostrils, stinging my eyes. I listened to his heartbeat, feeling it synchronize with mine. Neither of us moved, a silent understanding between us, cherishing this rare, peaceful moment. I'm sorry, he whispered, his voice raw, that I didn't come back to you sooner. Those simple words made me cry. After my father left, I was mostly alone. I carried the heavy past, the unfinished duty, by myself. There was no one to complain to, almost no one fighting beside me. He cupped my face, pressing a solemn kiss onto my forehead. Go ahead and do what you need to, he said, his voice firm, his eyes locked on mine. I'm on your side. Okay, I murmured, my voice thick with emotion. Lyra, he paused. Your name used to be Lila, right? I laughed softly, then a wave of sadness washed over me. The crimes Julian had committed against us had left no trace in the world. Few people remembered my overly kind father. No, I corrected him gently. I was Sunny. My father was killed by Julian He with a cruel prank. Unlike the other victims, my father hadn't died from toxic drugs. I told Leo my dark past, the whole story. When I finished, he looked even angrier than I felt. I've gotten this far, I reassured him. Judgment is coming soon. He held me tightly. You've been through so much. He sighed, then apologized. I'm sorry for the things I said before. I never meant to hurt you, but... He paused. I was so childish. He wasn't as bad as he claimed. He'd sensed something was wrong, he'd investigated me. But he hadn't revealed a single word to the He's. The worst thing he'd done was say some hurtful things to my face. Knowing all this now, is it too late? He looked at me tentatively, his eyes shimmering the same way they had 6 years ago. I shook my head, a wry smile touching my lips. This vulnerable look wasn't like him at all. He continued to stare at me, his gaze intense, full of deep feeling and determination. Long-suppressed emotions surged like a tidal wave, overwhelming me. We leaned closer. Our lips met in a long-awaited kiss, tender and reverent. A knock on the office door. Are you done talking? If not, the He's will be here looking for me soon. Leo frowned and released me. After I had composed myself, he said, Come in. Ethan Ding saw the slightly disheveled state of the restroom, paused, then chuckled softly. You two sure pick your spots. My face burned. I should go now. Wait. Leo leaned in, his eyelashes fluttering, his finger gently brushing the corner of my mouth. Your lipstick is smudged. Ethan's teasing gaze was on us. I cleared my throat and practically fled. Back at the He family mansion, I had to feign a heavy heart. Julian looked furious, clearly having hit another dead end. Julian, I said gently, my parents have some connections in Australia. I'll go see if they're willing to help. His expression softened slightly. Ah yes, go contact them. His tone was commanding, but I wasn't offended. He didn't have long left to enjoy his privilege. After saying goodbye to the He's, I boarded a plane the next day. Initially, I called Julian daily to report on my progress. He would complain about the obstacles he faced. That bastard Ethan Ding actually wants the hospital shares back. He'd rage, refusing to budge on the shares. I'd calmly advise him, it's okay. If he won't, we'll find other ways. There were no other ways. The He's had done many unethical things over the years, everyone knew it. Even the Ding family, who had once been close, stood by. Others certainly wouldn't get involved. Gradually, my calls became less frequent every 3 days than every 5. I savored the anxiety and helplessness in his voice. Julian will get through this. Don't worry. But the deadline for the payment was approaching fast. How could he not worry? How are things on your end? He demanded. I'm visiting father's old friends. I lied smoothly. One said he might lend me $4 million. What use is that little amount? I patiently reassured him. We'll raise it slowly. We'll get there. Slowly? You want me to be slow? If I don't pay soon, I'll go to jail. He sounded desperate. Worst case, we sell the hospital shares to the Dings. Ivy Woo, are you out of your mind? I laughed coldly and hung up. Then I threw the phone card into the ocean. I was in Australia on vacation. The occasional call to Julian was just like teasing a dog. It was a rare period of peace. The sea air was salty, the sun was bright. Driven to desperation, Julian finally sold the hospital shares. After paying off the debt, just as he thought he was in the clear, the pharmaceutical company called a shareholders meeting. I returned to China. In front of everyone, I pushed open the meeting room doors, removed my sunglasses, and greeted Arthur and Julian He. Long time no see. Julian was so angry he nearly overturned the table. Where have you been? On vacation. The sun in Australia was too strong, I got a bit tanned. I extended my arm to him. Look. Arthur looked significantly older. Alara, you. It seemed they hadn't grasped the gravity of the situation yet. They still thought I was just angry at Julian. I glanced at Arthur and nodded slightly to Ethan Ding. Everyone's here. Let's begin. The tension between Ethan Ding and Julian was palpable. Julian's mistake with the taxes, the plummeting stock, these things had hit the shareholders' interests. Naturally, they were displeased with Julian. Coupled with Ethan Ding's incentives, the shareholders quickly defected. Even if you all support him, what does it matter? I still hold. Julian stopped, realization dawning. Ethan Ding smiled suavely, holding up the share transfer agreement. What if you add this one? Arthur, he looked at me in disbelief. Julian slammed his fist on the table, yelling and pointing at me. Ivy Woo, are you insane? In their eyes, I was docile, weak, the perfect obedient wife and daughter-in-law. But now I ripped off the sheep's clothing, revealing my true self. Surprise. I smiled calmly at Julian. There are more surprises to come. Julian's eyes were bloodshot. He grabbed something, his phone, and threw it at me. You traitorous bitch. I didn't dodge, letting the phone hit my forehead. Everyone can see, mister. He's domestic violence, I said calmly, my voice carrying across the stunned room. I smiled serenely at Julian. I will submit the relevant evidence to the court. Let's divorce. Veins bulged on Julian's forehead. He lunged at me, but before he could reach me, Ethan Ding's fist connected, sending him sprawling. Hitting a woman? What kind of man are you? Chaos erupted. Security rushed in, separating them. Seeing Julian's bruised and swollen face, I couldn't help but chuckle. As I walked past him, I murmured softly, "Pighead." Leo was waiting downstairs. Seeing the cut on my forehead, he immediately wanted to go back up and confront Julian. I stopped him, but he turned his anger on Ethan Ding. Brother, what the hell? Lyra went up. There to help you, not get beaten up. Don't you practice martial arts? You can't even beat Julian He? What kind of man are you? His words were getting out of line. I snatched his phone and ended the call. Lyra, you can't go back to the He's. I found a place for you. You need to be careful. Julian and his father are vindictive. How about I move into your building? For a while? I can protect you. My eyebrow lifted. I'm not divorced yet. I don't mind, he said quickly. No, I replied firmly. He didn't push it further. That night, taking out the trash, I bumped right into him. Surprise! He had just showered, only a towel wrapped around his lower body, revealing a perfect six-pack. His wet bangs clung to his forehead, and his eyes seemed misty. He'd done it on purpose. Who opens their front door right after showering? I looked him up and down. Needs more work, I teased. He was clearly unhappy with my reaction, pouting before turning back into his apartment. He had moved into the apartment directly across the hall. Using protection as an excuse, he constantly came over for food or to get close. Thankfully, I was in a good mood and didn't mind. Before Arthur and Julian could recover from their financial ruin, they were arrested by the police. Why? Because years ago, to cover up the drug scandal, they had done inhumane things, like threatening patients' families, like murdering patients' families. On the day of the trial, a key witness appeared. Serafina Zhang, who had disappeared after Julian was taken by the tax bureau. Julian, your self-deception ends here. Eleanor, he surged up from the spectators' seats. Are you crazy? He's your child's father. Celeste Zhang looked directly at Julian, every word sharp and clear. No. He is my enemy. Her voice trembled slightly, but her gaze was steady. Do you remember me? My father. You beat him to death. She continued, addressing the court. You knew your drug was problematic, but you did nothing. You never intended to fix it. After my mother died, the patients' families gathered. That's when we realized the severity of what happened. When threats didn't work, you threatened my father. Finally, you killed him. Her eyes were fixed on Julian. Isn't that right, Julian He? Yes. She was Lila Liu Miao, the other child. The He's were rich and powerful. She was just a high school student. She could do nothing then. She could only watch Julian arrange for a thug to take the blame while he walked free. So, she disappeared into the crowd, got plastic surgery, changed her name, and approached Julian with a brand new identity. She was different from me. She used emotion as her weapon, cutting deeper into Julian's pride and heart. All these years, she told the court, her voice rising with emotion, we, the victims' families, have lived in guilt and fear. Finally, you've fallen. Now we can stand up and tell the world what you've done. Julian was shaking violently, his eyes red. He couldn't look at her. TSK. Julian, just like his father, was a fool for love. I'm sorry, he said to Serafina, his voice broken. She looked at him with pure contempt. You'll get what you deserve, you son of a bitch. How magnificent. I gave her a silent thumbs up. After the trial, we went out for a meal. I raised my glass first. To you. She smiled back. And to you. We had known each other for a long time. My father's death hadn't left any evidence. To get Julian punished by law, we needed other proof. His arrogant, cruel personality wasn't built overnight, nor would it disappear easily. Indeed, by looking into the victims of the drug scandal, I found the clue. Lila Lu had disappeared. The busy He family, dealing with 30 grieving families, wouldn't suspect a mere high school girl. I searched for 5 years until I found her. She was calling herself Serafina Zhang then, one of Julian's many lovers. But she was pregnant and didn't want Julian to know. So I brought her to Australia. Through countless dark nights, we huddled together, plotting against Arthur and Julian He. The crucial financial documents I submitted? She had taken photos of them for me. Julian trusted her far more than he trusted me. This, from the very beginning, had been a sweet trap set for them. Serafina/Lila would target Julian. I would target Arthur. And we had succeeded. After Arthur and Julian were imprisoned, Serafina, Jasper, and I went to visit them. Only Julian was brought to the meeting room. He had lost weight, looking thin and unwell. I looked at him with mocking eyes, like looking at a piece of garbage. Jasper, Julian said, trying to coax the child. You came to see Daddy? Jasper stepped back, clinging to Serafina's leg. He was 5 now. He remembered his mother telling him this man was not a good person. Jasper, I'm Daddy. Come closer, let Daddy see you. Jasper didn't move. Julian's pleading gaze turned to Serafina. Serafina was also looking at him like a piece of garbage. It was my turn to speak. Julian, I've brought you a surprise. I held up a document. This is the last time Jasper will visit you. Because you aren't his father. His anger ignited quickly. Jasper was his weak spot. What nonsense are you talking about? Take a good look, I said, holding up a paternity test. What does this say? It stated clearly. There was no biological relationship between them. The one you saw the first time? I faked it. This one is real. Why had Serafina Zhang gone abroad? Because the child she was carrying wasn't Julian's at all. I had said it was a grand plan from the start. I deliberately brought the child to the charity gala, putting him in front of everyone. Arthur, he cared about appearances, didn't he? Julian, he doted on this child, didn't he? Then I would show them this child was a fraud. He had no connection to them. At all. Not only that, I would ensure everyone knew the He family was foolish enough to cherish a child with none of their blood. Julian stared at the paper, stunned. Serafina, that's not true. Tell me it's not true. He sounded like a trapped beast, howling, whimpering in pain. So he could be hurt after all. Ivy Wu. I never did anything to you. He screamed at me. Serafina/Lila spoke for the first time since we arrived. Her voice was cold steel. You don't even know the crimes you committed. Why didn't you just die sooner? People like you just waste air. Her eyes blazed with years of suppressed rage. You don't deserve to be human. Go to hell. I smiled. Yes. You never considered it, did you? That's someone like you. How could you ever deserve a child? I leaned closer, my voice dropping. Julian, there's still a long time before your execution. Maybe you'll remember by then. Julian trembled with fury, pounding his fists against the glass. But I wasn't the child he could casually brutalize anymore. Sign the divorce papers as soon as possible. Otherwise, I can't guarantee your mother will be well. He was dragged away by the guards, still yelling. Exhilaration filled my chest. I was so close to weeping with joy. Father, do you see? I did it. Godmother, don't cry. Jasper had climbed onto the chair at some point, his small hands wiping away my tears. Don't be sad, Godmother. Jasper will protect you from now on. I kissed his cheek. Godmother isn't sad. When you're older, you'll know that sometimes people cry when they're happiest. He nodded, seemingly understanding, then reached out his hand. Jasper's hungry. I want to eat. He jumped down from the chair. Serafina and I looked at each other and smiled. We took one of Jasper's hands each and walked out towards our future. The end.